Hey, Don Williams here for AO, and I'm a new sales mentor, and this is my first time, so bear with me if I'm having technical challenges. So a little bit about me before I get to your questions. So one, I started selling at a very early age. I was a freshman in college and 18 years old, and at 19 became the number one salesperson in the country out of 450 salespeople. And they promoted me to sales manager, which is not always a good idea to take your best salesperson and make them a sales manager. Many times you lose a great salesperson and you get a less than great sales manager. But in this case, it worked out for them, and it took me about 6 months to be the number one sales manager in the country out of 40 offices. And I was the kind of sales manager that not only turned in the best numbers and the best dollars, but also about every 6 months would promote another sales manager that they could ship out somewhere in the country. And I would argue that you're not really leading well unless you're developing other leaders. It's certainly easier to develop, followers than leaders. After that stint in my career, I went on to open my first company at age 26. I'm 61, so I've been an entrepreneur 35 years now. And in that time, have worked with over half of the Fortune 500 on marketing, sales, and service, strategy, and more importantly, execution. It doesn't do you any good to know what to do if you don't go do that. So during that time, in the last 5 years, I've written 4 books. And today I'll just share the Romancing Your Customer book. And I'm not trying to sell you a book. I'll give you a copy of the book. Even though if you buy a book, we donate all the money above the publishing cost to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. But I'm happy to give you a book. But what I want to share with you is that Romancing Your Customer, in my opinion, is the proper perspective. And we'll talk about that here in just a second on how you should view your relationship with your customer. If you're doing things from their point of view and from what's going to benefit them most, that's going to work out best for you. And then you may see behind me The Proven Entrepreneur. I also have a pretty successful podcast called The Proven Entrepreneur Show, and you can catch me there. So I'm gonna give you about 3 thoughts, and then I'm gonna get straight to the questions. So one, I am a big believer in the concept of wow. And here's what wow is. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, wow starts at 11 and goes on to infinity. And if you want to be a phenomenal salesperson, if you want to stack new customers like firewood, if you want to blow your business up because you sign up so many people, you enroll so many people, you sell so many people, then you need to, in my opinion, to attempt to deliver experiences on a level of wow. It's not hard to dominate your market. You just have to be better than your competition. And frankly, they're not very good. And so if you set your standards very high, that you want to deliver wow experiences, that's going to make your life a lot easier. The second point I want to give you real quick is perspective. So we're all looking through our own perspective, our own glasses at whatever we're doing. And if you want to be a great salesperson, if you want to win business time after time after time, easily, quickly, fast, fun, you need to see things not from my perspective, but I need to see things from your perspective, okay? Because the customer doesn't really care what our perspective is. And so as the seller, we want to care what their perspective is. Next thought, real quick. When you look at selling, I'm going to tell you, stop selling. Quit. Don't do it anymore. Start helping. People are not interested in being sold. They are interested in having their problem solved. And so if you approach everything you do with your prospect from their point of view, from their perspective, and you're not trying to make them do something, which is very, very hard to do, you can make it easy to do some things. You can make it harder to do other things. But the easiest thing to do is to help them solve their problem, okay? And you won't be able to count all the orders. And then last point is imagine an archery target, the circles, okay, and then the bullseye. So as you approach the customer journey map for your product, service, or experience, you want to be certain that every thought, every word, every website, every action, every piece of copy, every video is pointed at the bullseye of winning business. And again, that's seeing it through the customer's eyes. So that'll just give you a little background into me, and you'll understand maybe the perspective by which my answers are coming to you from. So let's go to the first question. And this question is from Carrington. And I'll give you the business description and background first. I'm a commercial product photographer. The calls I have been having with brands have been increasing, but many are hesitant due to either working with someone they don't know or me not being geographically local to them as a client. Other than explaining my process for virtual or new client shoots, what are ways to help people feel more confident moving forward or to create excitement around the partnership? So that's the background. Here's the question. What are ways to close a prospect when a prospect is hesitant? So that's a great question. And I'm a big believer in closing. And, the kind of probably what you've heard in the past is close early, close often, close always. That's kind of goes all the way back to Zig Ziglar. And I certainly think you should ask for the sale. If you're not going to ask for the sale, you really don't have any right to expect to earn a sale. But the flip side of that is this. The number one reason people don't buy is a lack of trust. And I've had clients for years ask me, so Don, how do I build trust? And the easy answer is this: be trustworthy. And so that means live up to every promise. Do everything you say you're going to do. Surpass your promises. If you tell a client you're going to deliver something by 5 p.m., deliver it by 3 p.m., okay? And that will help build trust. Now, the quick way to build trust, I'm not sure how to do that. Trust is generally a bridge built gradually and destroyed instantly. And so you kind of have to not just talk the talk, but walk the walk when it comes to trust. But I'll give you an example. So I have maybe 30 minutes with you today here at Accelerate Organization. And I started out, since I'm a brand new mentor, and I told you a little bit about my background. I told you I was the top salesman in the country at 19, top sales manager at 20, and that I had worked with over half of the Fortune 500. And the reason for that is real clear. I wanted to give you a baseline to decide, should I trust him? Should I listen to him? Does he know anything about what he's going to tell us? Because today, there's an awful lot of gurus, an awful lot of experts out there that have never done anything that they're telling you about. And so you can build some trust with as few as a few sentences, okay? But the easiest way to build trust, the easiest way to close deals, the easiest way to keep from closing deals, the best way to close deals is to do such a good job they don't object, okay? And the only way I know to do that is to build rock solid trust. And sometimes that will take some time, but you can offset it. And think back to how I started this mentor session. Okay, next question. This is from, and I hope I pronounced this correctly, it's Yathus. And I'll give you the background first. I have a couple clients whose contractual work with my company is expiring. The training and consulting experiences with these clients have been very good. Love that. Okay, if you're going to do something, do it well. Do it to where the customers like it. My company is new, and I've never crossed this bridge before, so I'm seeking advice on how to retain these clients and sell new contracts to them. The work we are doing with them is not complete and requires multiple years of engagement. So that's the background, and here's the question. How do I sell new contracts to existing and satisfied clients to retain them as clients? So I'm thrilled with that question. How do I sell new contracts to existing and satisfied clients? It would have been very difficult to answer. How do I sell new contracts to existing and dissatisfied or unhappy clients? And the simplest thing I can tell you is this. Many times entrepreneurs, and I did when I was brand new a long time ago. We kind of get locked in our head about, I don't want to do anything wrong, so I'm just not going to do anything. Okay. And I want to encourage you to have a little bolder mindset of just ask. And so my recommendation and what I would do if I were in your shoes is I'd reach out to one of those clients, ask if I could set up a meeting. And I don't know if you're an online business or brick and mortar. If you have the opportunity to be face to face, I always want to have complex or delicate conversations face to face when I can. Sometimes you can't. Some of my clients are in Asia. I only see them maybe once a year, in person. And so those you have to do online. But however, whatever the method is by which you get in touch with that customer, I just ask them. I'd say, look, we've worked with you this long. Your contract's coming up to an end. We'd love to continue servicing you. Okay. We can service you without a contract, and that costs this, or we can renew your contract. And because we have the contract in place, we're able to pass the savings on to you. And just ask that client what's the best way to do that. And don't necessarily go in with, a rock solid strategy on how to do it. Just be very honest, brutally honest, and put a smile on your face and crank your courage up and just go ask. And that's my recommendation there. And that's doing it from their perspective, which of course, we've already talked about. Let's go to the next question. This is from Bob. And Bob's, I'll give you the background. This is a long one. I want to test the demand for a new consumer product before investing time and money into creating it. My plan is to send traffic to a landing page with a buy now button. If a visitor clicks buy now, I'm going to give a message that says, this product will be available soon. Add your email below to the first line to order when it is available. Do you believe this is an effective approach to test the market? If I collect enough emails, would that be a strong buying indicator? And the product I am considering creating will track data while playing the game beer pong. The tracking device would then send data to the cloud, and players could view their stats and leaderboards from website. I expect the retail price to be $200 to $300. Okay. I love the fact that entrepreneurs are so creative, and I think there's as many ways to make money as there is money in the world. Let me go to the question. What is a good way to pre-launch a product and build an initial audience or email list? Okay, so what is a good way to pre-launch a product and build an initial audience or email list? You could use social media, announce the fact that you're thinking about doing this product, couch it as market research. Would you be willing to give me an opinion? If so, I would give you 20% off an order if we do the product, or some incentive to incent people to do that. And that's going to be much more effective than the strategy that you outlined in the background, where you ask them to buy, and then if they do what you ask them to, then you kind of throw them a curveball and say, well, it's not ready yet. I'm never a big believer in that. And think back to perspective and romancing your customer and always doing things from the customer's point of view. And so whoever, basic marketing is just answering like the big W questions. Who buys what I sell? Where are they? How do I reach out to them? When do I reach out to them? Why should it be something they're interested in? And if you can answer those basic questions, that's about halfway to a marketing degree, because keep in mind, whether we're selling products, services, or experiences, we're all just in the people business. So I think I'd do something a little more direct and just go ask people what they think, and they'll tell you. And you even see stuff like that at the mall, where there's a canvasser, they're holding a clipboard, and you're walking down the mall, and they're like, hey, can I ask you a couple of questions? And I'll give you a coupon for something at the ice cream parlor or whatever. Okay, next question. This is Ricardo. And the background, I have a barber shop with a 4-year lease with 12-year secured. Would I be able to negotiate that? Also, when I first started, I used my personal name to sign the lease. Now I have an LLC. Can I transfer the lease to my LLC as well? So a couple of questions in the background, actually a couple more questions. And then the actual question is, based on the current economy, any negotiating tips as I go to renegotiate my retail lease for my barbershop? Okay, so I'm a little unclear on the details, and I would say I'm a little unclear as to what effect the current economy has on the question, whether we're saying the economy is down and so my landlord should be softer in a negotiation, or whether the economy is, I mean, if you look at prices, if you look at unemployment, the economy's raging right now. And so will my landlord be more difficult? So again, selling is communication, but it's persuasive communication. It's how can I get that person to see my point of view? And the easiest way to do that is to start out by seeing their point of view. So I'm a commercial and residential landlord on multiple properties. And if a tenant came to me and said, I entered this lease 4 years ago as a person, and today I want to be removed from the lease as my person, and I want my LLC to assume my position in that lease. As a landlord, I would have a couple of probably pretty negative feelings towards that. One, if I was willing to release the person and accept the LLC as the tenant, I probably would want a brand new term. I would say, hey, I'm killing this other lease, and so now I want a new 12-year lease. And that would be my initial reaction there. The part about releasing you as a person, unless you have a very strong corporate profit and loss and balance sheet, they're probably going to require a personal guarantee, even if the LLC is the tenant. And so I'm not sure. I'm not saying it can't be done, but I am saying you'll have to really think about it from the landlord's point of view on what could you incent them to make these considerations to your lease, because otherwise I just don't think you're going to get any consideration at all. Next question is from Asia, and the background is, the purpose of Prep LLC is a one-stop shop for everything: study skills, college admissions, and SAT prep for high school students and their parents. We help them navigate the college admissions process, prep for the SAT, and obtain great grades by providing tutoring, college prep, and SAT prep services. I'm asking this question as I want to increase the amount of time I spend prospecting so I can produce 1 to 2 new customers per week. And I'm not sure about how to message cold leads in the direct messages and get results. I'm only used to messaging people who have already expressed interest. So one comment on that is this: I love, in my own client business, my own consulting business, I love clients that I want to increase my time spent prospecting, because what I know is this: if you increase your time spent prospecting, you'll increase your prospects. And if you increase your number of prospects, you will increase your number of sales. So kudos for that right off the bat. And then the real question is, if I'm going to approach leads via direct message through social media, could you help me with a simple, quick script to know how to open the conversation? And so I'll give you a simple, quick script as a starting point, and then I'll recommend that you use this 100 times or 500 times, and then make modifications as you go. And typically it's wise to kind of have 2 scripts. It's where you're A/B testing. If you have 200 leads, you send 100 the A message and 100 the B message, and you test and see if you get a difference in response. But again, I'm a big believer in brutal honesty and seeing things from the other person's point of view. And so it could be as simple as this. My name is Asia. I'm with this company. Here's what we do. Could we help you or someone you know with that service? And that's not fancy. It's not complex, but it is honest and it is to the point. And any responses you get are going to be worth having. Okay, next question. This is AJ. How can I prepare my business to survive in the event of my passing? And the background is recently my wife and I, who are co-owners of the business, had a living will drafted for the protection of our children and assets. Going through the process, we realized we needed a contingency plan for the business too. From a legal perspective, we have that figured out. However, from a process perspective, I'm not sure what we should have in place or prepared ahead of time. If we were to pass, we want the new ownership to be as equipped as possible to pick up the pieces and continue. Thanks. So love that they gave me this question. Has nothing to do with sales, but I am a 36-year entrepreneur, founded a dozen companies, had a couple exits, and I'm currently a principal in 5 companies. So how can I prepare my business to survive in the event of my passing? And I guess I maybe have a couple of questions that I would ask before I could answer this well. Is one, in the event AJ and his wife, co-owners of the business, did pass, are the successor owners, are they already identified? Is there already a mechanism for them to buy the business, or are they inheriting the business? And is all that done? If it's not, okay, and we think that the heirs are somehow going to market the business after their passing, I would think the attorney and the CPA and the all the professionals that are advising there would, they're going to want some bricks added to the wall of how we're going to have this business succeed in the event of our passing, because you need an insurance guy or girl to be around to help with key man life insurance. So maybe we have the successors identified and they know they're going to take the business, and we already have all that done contractually. But they probably will need extra cash above and beyond the business's normal cash flows. And that's easy to do. You can secure that with key man life insurance. And really that question, I guess I should have prefaced it with this: not an attorney, not qualified to give legal advice, but for a question like this, you want to be sure that you have adequate representation legally, financially, estate planning, the whole thing, and it can totally be done. And I want to compliment you for crossing this bridge. Most business owners don't. And then consequently, if something happens, what they wanted to happen with the business is nowhere near, what actually happens. Hope that's helpful. Last question, Melinda. And the background, I'm a nurse practitioner. I created my healthcare practice about 6 months ago. And so far I've been doing services that are primarily insurance-based, muscle and joint injections, and also dabbled in COVID testing and treatment. I want to add more services that will be primarily cash-based: vitamin infusions, regenerative therapies, medical weight loss, and possibly men's health. I'm having a hard time forming a branding strategy that encompasses both, and I believe the buyer personas on each service line vary greatly. Should I form a separate business entirely, or is the way to keep it all in one? I don't want to stop the service I provide now. I just shifted its focus. I want to expand into these other services. From what I see, the pros are more specific marketing, more defined focused practices. The cons are it's less cost effective to start and build and market 2 companies versus 1. So great question. I'll repeat the question. Do I need to form different companies for different product lines or services. And without the background, I would say normally if they're fairly diverse, there's a lot of discrepancy between the two businesses, they probably should have two entities. But I don't think that in this case, these are terrifically diverse. They are both healthcare related, and I'll answer this with, so I have a client who's a physician, has a large, what I would call insurance practice. So just like the insurance piece of your business, and has about 9,000 patients. So that's a pretty big medical practice. And a couple of years ago, he approached me and said, hey, I want to build a concierge practice, and can you help me do that? And I asked him to kind of, clarify and define what he meant by that. And he said, well, I'd like to have a subset of patients that paid me X number of dollars a month, every month, and they had my cell phone, and they could come in, and I would see those patients maybe 8 or 10 a day, as opposed to in the insurance practice where the nurse practitioner or the physician's probably seeing 35 patients a day to be sure the business is in the black. It's very expensive. There's a lot of money. It's very expensive to get health care, but it's very expensive to provide health care. It's not guaranteed, riches to be a physician or a nurse practitioner. So anyhow, we did put together a process. Excuse me one second. Got a raging head cold. Pardon me. So we did put together a process where we invited insurance practice patients in to speak with the doctor about the concierge practice. And we built that to about 400 patients. So 400 patients paying $2,500 a year, $200 a month, generates $1 million in revenue. And the physician goes from seeing 35 patients a day to seeing 8 or 10, and goes from being totally reactive, which is very common in healthcare. I have a cold, I go to the doctor, they give me a Z-Pack, and they send me out the door, to where they're actually practicing preventative medicine and delivering a higher quality of healthcare. So with that client, we didn't separate two brands. It's all under the same brand, but it's basically the insurance practice and the concierge practice. And I think you could do the same thing. And many people in healthcare who have traditionally relied on insurance reimbursement, which now that's maybe hard to rely on insurance reimbursement. You don't know, number one, what you're going to be paid, number two, when you're going to be paid, and number three, really, if you are going to be paid. And so it's kind of hard to build a business on that. And the neat thing about ancillary services, so any of the health care, beauty treatments, hormone replacement therapies, things like that are all cash payment. Insurance is not going to pay anything. And the people that will seek out those services, they have the discretionary income to pay for that. And so applaud you on looking for some diversification in your business. And again, not qualified to give you legal advice, but I don't think you actually have to set up a separate entity to do what you want to do. So that is the end. And again, that's not really a sales question either, but I'm glad that somebody thought enough of me to let me answer it. And so I want to encourage you. Today's Wednesday, hump day. Go out and sell something to somebody, and I'll see you next time. If I can help you in any way, please reach out. Thank you. Bye now.